Good morning. Happy April Fools. I hope you use today's opportunity wisely. And, whether it's quarantine or not, today's a good day. Today's a fun day. Just be wise, make sure you don't do anything too silly. But we are starting 9.2, area of triangles. Yesterday we did area of parallelograms. And a parallelogram is basically a tilted rectangle, right? So it's just base times height, similar to length times width of a rectangle. Today we are working area of triangles, which you worked with last year as well. So it shouldn't be something too new, but I'm not sure which formula you used last year. The formula we're going to stick with is A equals area equals 1/2 of the base times the height. So h, height, and again be sure you're using all lowercase variables because capital A is area, lowercase a is just a variable. Alrighty, so 1/2 base times height. You do not need to write what I'm about to show you, what's in the bubble. Again, you do not need to write. So this is what we talked about yesterday a little bit. A parallelogram can be formed by two congruent triangles. We wrote that down. We drew it out yesterday. Congruent means that the figures are the same shape and same size. Again, congruent is also a word that we should already be fairly comfortable with because it was a term that was used in 5th grade as well. Alrighty. So to find the area of a triangle, we've got 3 steps. Our first step that you will earn points for is to write your formula. So A equals 1/2 base times height. The second step is to plug in what you know. So plug in for A if they give you the area. Plug in for B if they give you the base, H for the height. They will, in this lesson, give us the area, and we will have to use inverse operations to isolate the variable, just so you know. That's not right away, but our last example will be that kind of example. And then our last step is to solve. Excuse me. So, example 1, find the area of the triangle. Now, you don't have to write what I wrote in green because we wrote this yesterday, and you should, based on yesterday's homework, be comfortable with this. But if they give you a figure on graph paper, you're just counting the lines that it takes up. So the base, it doesn't actually give us a number, but the base is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So the base is 6. The height, 1, 2, 3, 4. The height is 4. Alrighty, so let's start by writing our formula. A equals 1/2 base times height. And then we're plugging in what we know. A equals 1/2. Our base is 6. Our height is 4. That kind of looks like a 9. There we go. Now, the commutative property tells me that I can multiply that 1/2 by the 4 or by the 6. So in this case, they're both even numbers, 6 and 4, so I can easily multiply them by 1/2. So half of 6 is 3, and I can do 3 times 4. But if that 6 weren't a 6, if it were like a 5, well, I'd rather find half of 4 because I know that quickly and I know that's 2. So I can do that if I want to. I would just rearrange. I would draw a little arrow and say I'm actually going to write it A equals 1/2 times 4 times 6. And that's totally fine because, again, multiply the 1/2 by whatever number you can work with easily in your head. Okay, so 1/2 times 6 is 3. 3 times 4 equals 12, and it's 12 units squared. Alrighty, pretty basic. Write our formula, plug it in, and solve. Alright, example 2. So if we just look at these numbers right off the bat, they're not super friendly because they're decimals, but they're not too bad. So A equals, says find the area of the triangle, so we start with our formula. A equals 1/2 base times height. That's step 1 to write our formula. Step 2 is to plug in what we know. The base of the triangle is this 12.1. The height is always going to be the dotted, and it's that height that's perpendicular to the base. So this right angle is what we're looking for as well. So the base is 12.1 and the height is 6.4. Now I'm looking at these two numbers, 12.1. I can't easily cut that in half. I don't know half of that right off the top of my head necessarily. But 6.4, I do. Half of 6 is 3. Half of 4 is 2. So it's 3.2. So I'm going to rearrange this. I'm going to allow myself to use the commutative property and say 1/2, instead of multiplying it by 12.1 first, I'm going to multiply it by 6.4 and then 12.1. So 1/2 times 6.4. If I did not know that in my head, if we got to numbers that weren't so easy, my recommendation is to convert that 1/2 to 0.5 and multiply it out by 6.4. But since I know 1/2 of 6.4 is 3.2, I'll just multiply that by 12.1. Now I am breaking this down into a step like this because I'm going to have to show some side work to figure that out. So let's see, my thing is frozen. Oh no. Alright, so then I'll show my side work here. 12.1 times 3.2. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 1 is 2. And x is 0. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 1 is 3. 2 plus 0 is 2. 4 plus 3, 7. 6 plus 2, 8, 3. We've got 1 decimal here, 1 decimal here, which means we've got 2 in our product, which means area equals 38.72 meters squared. Area is always squared. Now, you will have to do some side work for sure on tonight's homework. Do not give up on that side work. It's just multiplying or dividing decimals, which you should be very comfortable with. Alrighty, example 3. This is the last example, and this is where we are finding the missing dimension. So this is the one I was talking about where we've got to work backwards. So our first step is to write our formula. So I'm going to write our steps, or follow the steps next to them. A equals 1/2 base times height. So I wrote my formula, and then plug in what we know. In this case, we know the area. We don't know the base. We do know the height. So area, it says 24, equals 1/2. Now, I don't know my base, so I'm going to keep b as my variable there. Height is 6. It's kind of unfortunate that it's a b and a 6, so just be sure they look different. But in this case, it says 1/2 times b times 6. Well, we can't do 1/2 times b because we don't know what it is. So I'm going to use the commutative property and allow myself to rearrange. I'm going to do 1/2 times 6 times b because I know 1/2 times 6 automatically is 3. So it's 24 equals 3b. Divide both sides by 3 in order to isolate that variable. We want the b by itself because that's the dimension, that's the length, the measurement that we're missing, that we're looking for. So I'm going to isolate that variable on the right. What I do to the left side, what I do to the right side, I do to the left. So I divide this side by 3. And 24 divided by 3, I get 8. And it's not just 8, it's 8 centimeters. Now it's not 8 centimeters squared because we're not finding the area. In this case, we're just finding the length of the base. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and I'm going to scroll down. This is where you can go ahead and complete the got it's. We are doing A through D. Oh, and Stripe says hi. Got it's A through D. So you go ahead and pause the video. I'm going to go ahead and start. Got it A. So it says find the area, but it doesn't give us our dimensions. We have to count them on the graph paper. I start with my formula. A equals 1/2 base times height. My base is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. My base is 6. My height, 1, 2, 3, is 3. So area equals 1/2 times 6 is 3 times 3. A equals 9, and it's units squared. Alrighty, got it, B. Alright, I'm starting with my area. Area equals 1/2 base times height. A equals 1/2. My base, the base of that triangle is 9. The height is 7. Now, in this case, I don't necessarily automatically know what 1/2 times 9 is. So I may need to, show some side work. 1/2 times 9 over 1. However, 1/2 times 9 is 4.5. So if you're comfortable with that, go ahead and do so. Now we might need to show some side work. 4.5 times 7. 7 times 5 gives us 35. 7 times 4 is 28, 29, 30, 31. We've got one decimal here, which means we need one here. And area equals 31.5. What are they talking about? Feet squared. Now again, I'm moving pretty quickly because I'm expecting that you've already got these done and you were just checking your work. All right, C and D are missing dimensions, so keep that in mind. Again, I start with my formula always, and I'm going to plug in what I know. I know my area. It says area is 40 times 1/2. It does not give me my base, so I'm going to use B, but it does give me my height, and that's 8. But I can't do 1/2 times B, so I'm going to rearrange. Commutative property tells me it's okay. 1/2 times 8 times B. So 1/2 times 8 is 4, so it's 4B. I need to use inverse operations to solve, so 4 times B, which means I need to divide both sides by 4 in order to isolate that variable. 40 divided by 4 happens to give us 10. And it's not just 10, it is 10 meters. A, B, C, D. Alrighty. D, we start with our formula. A equals 1/2 base times height. My area is 72, so I'm plugging in what I know. My base, it does give me my base. It's 12, but it does not give me my height. All right, 1/2 times 12, I know it's 6 times H equals 72. Okay, we divide both sides by 6, and H equals 12. And it's not just 12, it is 12 yards. I wish you could see what Stripes is doing right now. He's like eating my pen as I write, and he is sitting on my lap. Alrighty, so please let me know if you have any questions on the Got It or any part of the homework. The answer key will be posted. As a reminder, you earn 5 points for completing your homework and turning it in. The same expectations apply to these NTI days that were applied to your homework in class. So I need to see all of your work. If I don't see your formula, if I don't see you plugging it in, simplifying, and getting your final answer with your units, you are not receiving 5 out of 5 on your homework. Expectations stay the exact same. Alrighty. Again, let me know if you have any questions. Happy April Fool's Day. I hope you do your homework with your animal in your lap because I am thoroughly enjoying myself. Bye.